Okay, so shall we start now?
Yes, sir, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So yesterday, in the last class, we have a detailed discussion about the concept and definition of ICT and new media and what exactly it is, new media, right? So also we talked about the transition from agriculture to industrial and to information revolution, which can be termed as primitive era, modern era, and internet era, respectively. So now we'll understand what is mass communication. Anyone, what is mass communication? What do
Where
you understand by
there
mass
is
communication? Yes.
uh, a single broadcasting channel, either in print or text or net form, internet form, is used to reach a mass medium simultaneously.
Yeah. That means communicating to a mass audience
Yes,
through
like
a
TV,
channel,
radio,
through a vehicle. Yeah.
newspapers.
Okay. So all forms of external communication, which are theoretically accessible to everyone, it is made of mass media and mass communication vehicles. So the characteristics of mass communication are that it reaches a large number of people at the same time, and it is easy for the receiver to ignore the message here, and also it is not possible to customize the message for individual receivers because it is difficult to obtain feedback, and it is relatively cheap per receiver reached. This is the definition of mass communication as for the traditional forms of media. Of course we have feedback now for digital media, right? Then there is message. So the message of communication is the content one sends to the receiver. So in communication planning, we have to formulate the message in terms of the desired residue of the communication in mind of the receiver, right? So there are often sometimes there are one liners with an emotional undertone, appealing to the values of the receiver, and then we can invite him or her to the desired attitudes or actions. So the message is always transmitted by a person or by other means. Here the body language or the choice of the medium has to support the message. Okay, if it is not done, the result can be counterproductive, because that's why we say here that the medium is the message. Medium is the message in the sense, a central idea of communication, by formulated by the communication theorist Marshall McLuhan, who demonstrated that each media, whether it's print, whether it's radio or television, it's connected with a different pattern or arrangement among the senses. That means it results in a different awareness or perception. See, although the literal message of a radio report, for example, we can say of a disaster, or the television coverage of the same event may be identical, but the event will be perceived differently and the take on different meaning because the two media arrange the senses differently. In this sense, the medium, that is the singular for the word media, is the message. The medium is the message. So this message is often more important than the literal message we want to send. So mass media refers to a diverse array of media technologies that reach a large audiences via mass communication. So the technologies through which this communication takes place, they include a variety of outlets. Okay. The mass media denotes a section of the media specifically designed to reach a large audiences. So the term was coined in the 1920s with the advent of nationwide radio networks, where mass circulation newspapers and magazines were uh, much in use that time. So however, then some forms of mass media such as books and then journals, manuscripts, they have already been in use for centuries before the advent of this traditional forms of media. So now mass media also includes internet media like the blogs, message boards. We have podcasts, video sharing options, because individuals now have a means to exposure that is comparable in scale to that previously restricted to a selected group of mass media producers. Now everybody has access. So the communications audiences has been viewed by some communicationists as forming a mass society with special characteristics. That means notably automation or lack of social connections, which will render it specially, to the influence of modern mass media techniques such as advertising and propaganda. So there has been some criticism also. Then, what do you understand by the word demassification? Demassification of mass media.
Making it more personalized for the customer, for the audience.
Yes, yes. Demassification is to break into elements that appeal to individuals' interest. So communications media that reaches fragmented, or we can say niche audiences, that are also known as demassified audiences, as opposed to mass communication via the mass media, where the people, the audiences are heterogeneous and we are unaware, right? Here we can divide it based on the segments. So this refers to the restructuring of media industry into smaller independent operating entities. See, this cuts across major mass media like print. In print, we have newspapers, books, magazines, then films, commercial films, and then broadcast media also like radio and television. So the idea here is that the mass audiences is the largest number of people who can be assembled to hear mass messages, right? The idea here is changing now, because most media content is aimed at narrow segments like niche audiences. So this phenomena is called as demassification. Uh, can you give some examples of niche audiences? We have magazines exclusively for women, right? Femina, Women's Era. We have niche audiences in the form of children, men, women, students.
Health
All these are
magazines.
examples of demassification, right? We are dividing into different segments according to the interests of the particular community of people. Any doubts here? Demassification. Then we have another concept called as global village. See, the term global village has been used to express the idea that people throughout the world are interconnected to the use of new media technologies, right? So, in short, it is the world that is considered as a single community linked by telecommunications. That means via the internet. So, one easy example of the global village concept is the internet here. See, having the internet on phones and access to free internet at libraries, and people are easily able to connect to social media or email to people around the world. So being truly part of the global village means being connected to the worldwide communication network. So this makes it possible to know what's going on anytime, anywhere, right? So while this kind of awareness can be exciting, it can sometimes also lead to stress, because there are so much bombarding of messages on internet. There is so much of dearth of information which you have to choose from. And the concept of global village was coined by a noted media scholar, McLuhan. Okay, so clear about global village. Now we have another term, digital divide. See, the term digital divide describes the fact that the world can be divided into people who do and people who don't have access to, or we can say the capability to use modern information technology. We can say such as the telephone, television, or the internet. Okay, so the gap between the haves and have nots. So here the digital divide exists between those in cities and also those in rural areas. Okay, So the digital divide also exists between the educated and the uneducated, between the economic classes also, and globally between the more and less industrial developed nations, and it can also exist between the cities as well, okay, in the community as well. So if we go by the definition, what does digital divide mean? So the digital divide refers to the difference between people who have easy access to the internet and those who do not. Okay. So a lack of access is believed to be a disadvantage here to those on the advantage side of the digital divide, because see, the huge knowledge base that can only be found online cannot be accessed by those who do not have the access, right? So the digital divide appears in a number of different contexts. It could be between differences between rural and urban internet access. It could be between sub-economic differences between people of different races, income, and education that affects their ability to access the internet. Then can also be differences between developing, and also emerging nations in terms of the availability of internet. Okay. So clear what is digital divide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So any doubts till now what we have discussed in the earlier classes also? Digital divide is an important question for examination, and also the convergence, digital divide, global village. These are important questions. Please make a note of it. Okay. So, what do you understand by new media?
Ma'am, what are the three topics you said? Sorry, the digital divide, global village, and
Digital divide.
global village, and you
Yeah.
mentioned a third topic.
Yes. In the last class, also we have discussed some important topics like convergence.
Media convergence, ma'am. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So now in demassification of mass audiences, we have been discussing about niche audiences, right? Different types of breaking of uh, different types of audiences into segments. So like, who are the mass media audiences here? Audiences who consume the media, right? Different forms of media. See, information technology has advanced so much that in the recent years, it is now possible for people, like while sitting in the drawing rooms also, to witness the events taking place in any part of the world, or even it could be in the space also. We can watch the live coverage of, let's say, sports events or music concerts taking place thousands of miles away. If we talk about the past, Indira Gandhi was also able to talk to Rakesh Sharma in the space shuttle, and the whole of the world could watch them in conversation. Then there was also the war in Iraq that was shown live by CNN. So teleconferencing also makes it possible not only to watch events far away, but also to participate in the action here. So technology has expanded, even the audiences has also expanded manifold. So today we think in terms of audiences spread over the whole world, right? This was a phenomenon which Marshall McLuhan has coined. Okay, the term global village, right? This is regarding the audiences only, because national boundaries hold no barriers for mass communication now. And still, communication cannot be without targets. So mass communication is effective if it is produced for specific groups of people, right? Instead of targeting to the whole mass of audiences, heterogeneous audiences, it could be, better if we divide the audiences into specific groups. So thus, on the one hand, audiences of mass communication are spread across the national boundaries, and on the other hand, media content has to be targeted oriented. Like target oriented in the sense we have to see the common interest of the people and customize the message accordingly. So you have to define the specific audiences as per the target audiences. So here we have different terms coined by McLuhan on like what are mass audiences, what is mass society. Okay, so first let us understand what is the meaning of mass. See, the term mass is used to denote different things, right? For example, in physics, the word mass would refer to the quality of matter in the object. Then it may also mean a quantity of matter in shape, depending on the shape and size. And in mass communication, it refers to the audiences. Sometimes the word mass is also used to refer to common people, especially the lower classes also. So mass also has both negative and positive meanings. See how in the negative sense it is, it also refers to the ignorant and unruly mass of people. So mass also implies a lack of culture, intelligence, or even a rationality. Okay, so it can also have positive meaning, right? It can denote the strength and solidarity of ordinary working people when they are organized together, right? So in general usage, the word mass refers to people in a large number. If we say masses are ignorant, we mean that a very large proportion of the population is ignorant, right? Similarly, when we say mass destruction, it means destruction on a very large scale. So mass awareness program refers to a program that aims to create awareness amongst a very large number of people in the context of social science and mass communication and journalism. So in fact, the most important feature of mass is it is very large size in terms of the number of individuals. So it will be appropriate if we say that mass refers to an infinite number of individuals and the size of mass is very large and unknown, heterogeneous here. And secondly, we can also say that masses are geographically distributed, right? Very large number of people may be attending a public meeting. So they are physically present at one place and they are called a public. And the individuals of mass may be present anywhere and everywhere. So when we say masses in developing countries are poor, we refer to people living in underdeveloping countries, right? Perhaps some parts of the world. So here mass can denote anybody. Since the masses are very large in size and in physical terms, so the people are distributed all over and they are anonymous to each other. We don't know who they are, right? They are consuming the messages, but they are not aware of each other. They are anonymous. Here, the individuals in a mass society are not known to each other, and they are not even conscious of the presence of one another, right? They are not aware of the existence of the another person. So there may be a vague feeling of others like us, like, but it is not well defined here. So since the people are anonymous to one another, the masses here are unorganized here. See, unlike the people in a public meeting, the masses do not have any common goal to achieve. There is no organization and therefore no leadership or hierarchy in the mass. And also, we can also say that masses are not capable of behaving as one unit. They are not similar. So we can say that mass refers to an infinitely large number of people who are physically located at different places and are not organized at all as a group here. Okay. So then if we talk about the emergence of the theory of mass society, the society is a large and complex system, right? So with modernization, the complexity of the society have further increased here. The traditional society was a well-defined social system in which individuals were closely tied to each other, and so mainly through kinship ties. But here, after industrialization and urbanization, it has led to the formation of society where where the people are divided, yeah, and they are also unorganized in terms of economics, and also they are manifold, but also kinship ties also have gradually faded away. The individuals have become more self-centered now. So here technology plays a very important role in organizing these different types of unorganized masses. Okay, we're discussing here the concept of audiences. So the commonly used meaning of the term media audience is the aggregate of persons forming the opinions. Here they can be readers or listeners, viewers of different media, right? That is the content of different media. So in other words, audiences is a group of individuals with a common pattern of media consumption. Okay, so such individuals share common access or exposure to the same mass communication products. And there are different ways of looking at media audiences. Okay, they could be media reach, media access, in terms of media exposure, and also on the terms of media effects. Okay, what do you understand by media reach?
For example, if it's a television program, how many people are able to view? How many? What is the penetration?
Yeah, right. See, for example, the signals of All India Radio are available to about 95% of the population, let's say living in about 85% of the country's area. Okay, it is the total population whom the communication can be reached. So media reach is one important aspect. Another is media access. What do we mean by media access? How it is different from media reach?
For example, say a television has a penetration to the 97% of the country. But if I do not have a television set, I'll not be able to access the information.
Yes,
The
yes, the accessibility part. See, there are many people who watch television programs at the houses of neighbors or friends or in community centers, right? So groups watching a popular television program at a television shop, it is a common sight, especially in the rural area. So here it is difficult to monitor the media access, right? Many families do not buy newspapers, but their family members may read newspapers at various places, like library, or at friend's house, or anywhere. So those who have direct access by virtue of ownership, along with those who are non-owners, but they get exposed in other ways, constitute the accessibility audience. I'm not talking about the internet here. I'm talking about the traditional forms of media. Okay, like the newspaper, the television. Then we have another aspect called media exposure. So what is media exposure? See, everyone who has access to radio or television does not necessarily use them, right? For example, in a family that subscribes to a newspaper, everyone does not read it. So only those individuals who actually expose themselves to the media are the media audiences. Okay. So again, no one is exposed to the total content of any medium. See, no one listens to all the programs broadcast by All India Radio, right? Similarly, it is impossible to watch all the programs of Doordarshan. So many people do not even glance at the commerce page of the newspaper, right? Business page, or so there are many young people, especially students, who read only the sports page. So audiences can also be seen as program specific or content specific. So that is populations who are actually exposed to specific media content. And another important aspect of media behavior is that all users of media content are not uniformly exposed. That means there are people who listen to news every day without fail. Then others may listen to news, says on, let's say on an average of 5 days a week. So still others may be listening to news only once a week or even less often. So, and of course, there are people whose exposure to news on radio is nil. Okay. And coming to media effects, another way to think about audiences is in terms of individuals who have been exposed to mass communication products and they have undergone a change in their knowledge or in their opinions or let's say their attitude or behavior. Okay. See, a person may not recall anything of the information received after listening or watching a news program. Okay. So the same person after watching an advertisement may immediately rush to buy the product advertised there. And also another example could be voters generally they do not choose or they cannot modify their voting preference after listening to election broadcast by the political parties. The same may change their opinion if they see an advertisements related to their favorite political party. So these are the effects, media effects. Okay, the changes in terms of their knowledge or opinions and attitudes. So before dividing the audiences into different segments, you have to understand the types, the duality, and the types of audiences, the nature of the audiences. And the most interesting feature of a mass communication audience is its dual nature. That means at one level, media audiences is collectively formed. That means in response to media content, and it is also defined by attention to that content. See, that means when a new newspaper is launched, people gradually start reading it, right? And also there are several TV channels like Star Network, Z Network. They have created their own niche audiences. So these are the dual nature of the audiences. So you have to keep in mind the nature of the audiences, the type of audiences before demassifying, before dividing them into different segments, and also before customizing the message to their preferences. Okay, any doubts here? And as I said, there are different types of audiences. They are general audiences, right? They are very large and they are highly diverse groups that represent the broad cross section of the society, and majority of the people belong to this category. And the media content is generally targeted at them, and their participation determines the success or failure of a content or the medium here. And then there are specialized audiences. Here, see, these audiences are composed of individuals who possess similar characteristics. I'm talking about the niche audiences here. They are relatively small in number, and mass media generates special contents for these audience groups, right? For example, programs for tribals, for housewives, then we have programs for college students, etc., right? They're examples of programs of specialized audiences. Similarly, we have magazines like Femina, then we have journals like Mainstream, and then we have economic and political weekly. They are limited, but they have known readership, right? They are targeted at niche audiences. Okay. And the types of audiences can also be distinguished based on their demographic characteristics and also their mentality, the mental makeup. So which could be elite audiences. Elite audiences are composed of the people who are decision makers and also who are the trendsetters in the society, and they are economically well to do and are highly educated. They have high status in the society, and their number is very small, but their influence is very strong here, we may say that. because they may also be the owners, or they can also be the controllers of the mass media institutions. So the members of the elite audiences are the early adopters of communication technologies. But their actual media consumption is generally low here, but they are the influencers. Okay. Any doubts here? The different types of audiences. So demassification of mass audiences is also important question. You can cite examples here. In newspapers also we have different types of newspapers, right, catering to different segments. We have business newspapers like Financial Express, Business Line. They are targeted for different types of audiences who are interested in the business. So likewise you can give other examples as well. Clear? Most of you all were not present in the earlier classes, so are you fine with the definition of ICT new media? Did you understand what exactly is ICT new media? You have any doubts? If you want me to repeat, I'll do that. Yes.
Actually, madam, confused with the different topics. Little bit. I'll figure out by myself, and I'll let you know what are the doubt I have along with
If
me.
you want me to repeat, I'll repeat that because most of you were not there in the earlier classes.
Yeah, exactly. That was the same issue. Actual issue is.
Because first you have to understand what is exactly ICT new media, what we are talking about, right? Okay. See, the syllabus has been divided into 5 blocks here, as you all know. So first we'll discuss about what exactly is ICT and new media and why do we call it new media. Because this is very important thing, because we are talking about a new media, and especially new media, the newness of the new media is completely justified here because it is very subjective, and there are questions that can we call it a new media, and then how it is different from traditional media. So this is also very important when we are talking about new media and when we are saying that there is a medium which is new. So how it is different from the traditional medium. And also we will be discussing in the next classes about the potential of new media. So we also discussed about the new media landscape, because now there are a lot of people who are connected to internet, people who are there on social media. So we also understood the media landscape, the transform, we can say it, transformed media landscape which happened because of convergence of new media. Okay, so what is new media? Earlier when we used to talk about the media and traditional media, we used to talk about the different medium in isolation, which means that there was a print media, it had a different category. Then there was an audiovisual media which had a different category. So, but when we are talking about this new media, we are talking about the convergence here, which means that the printed form, the images, the text, okay, and the sounds were totally different categories earlier. But in new media, for instance, the internet, web media, constitutes all these media forms, right? So when we are talking about new media, it's not particularly not one media or technology which we are talking about. So when we are talking about the new media, we are talking about the packaging of information, the new way of offering information to our target audiences. So what is ICT and how it is impacting different industries and some of the global trends that are driving in development of ICTs and its products. So let's start with the basic definition of what ICT is. See, ICT has three letters which starts with ICT, information, communication and technology. So anybody, can you tell what is information? What do you understand by information?
The content that is available on the internet, for example, is information, but is a lot of data out there. It is information, but it does not. It's not relevant for everyone. So, information primarily means being able to cull down to what is relevant for me.
See, the basic definition of information, information can be termed as the knowledge that is obtained from either by reading or investigating or by studying or by research. The basic definition. It is a knowledge, right? Information is the knowledge that is obtained from reading, investigation, study or research. Then comes the communication. The next term is communication. So communication is the act of transmitting messages and a process whereby information is exchanged between individuals, right? This is the purpose of communication, right? Transmitting messages. Then the next term here is technology. So technology is the application of science used to solve problems, right? So these three terms define ICT. So putting these three together, the information here can be referred to all sorts of posts, texts, and videos that have been shared and that have been uploaded online, right? For example, Facebook posts. We have messages sent and we have pictures being uploaded and we have news being uploaded, and all of these can be considered various forms of information. Okay, clear what is ICT? Yes. So in short, what can we say about ICT? ICT is the application of science and technology to facilitate the communication process, right? This is the concept of ICT. The technology is used. Any doubts here? ICT and new media.
No doubt, ma'am. That already repeated, but today also you repeated a lot.
Yes, yes, to others were not there in the earlier classes. Yes, where are others? Please unmute and say, is it clear?
I'm here itself, madam. Just
Yeah,
figuring out.
clear, right? Okay. So we have also discussed about the evolution of ICT. See, we see these three letters ICT everywhere, right? Particularly in education. So ICT is an acronym that stands for Information Communication Technology. And ICTs are constantly evolving on almost daily basis. So it is difficult to keep up with the changes that happen so fast. So there is, there is no universally accepted definition for ICT, because the concepts, methods, and applications involved in ICT are constantly evolving. But we have to focus on these three words behind ICT: the information, communication, and the technology. So a good way to think about ICT is to consider all the users of digital technology that already exist to help individuals or businesses and organizations to use the information. So in short, we can say that ICT covers any product that will store, retrieve, or manipulate, or let's say transmit or receive information electronically in a digital form. Okay. Example can be personal computers, digital televisions, email, or now we have robots. So ICT mainly deals with the storage and retrieval and transmission of information electronically in a digital format. So ICT is concerned with the storage, retrieval, manipulation, transmission, and also receipt of digital data. And importantly, it is also concerned with the way these different users can work with each other. So if we talk about the business, in business, ICT is often categorized into two broad types of products. We can say here the traditional computer-based technologies, where things you can typically do on a personal computer or using computers at home or at work. Okay, and the more recent and fast-growing range of digital communication technologies, which allow people and organizations to communicate and share information digitally. Okay, so we have traditional computer based technologies includes word processing. We have spreadsheets. Word processing example could be Microsoft Word, where you can write letters, reports, etc., right? Then spreadsheets can, we have Microsoft Excel, where you can analyze financial information. Then you can do calculations, you can create or you can forecast models also through spreadsheets. Then we have database softwares like Oracle. We have Microsoft SQL Server. So managing data in many forms from basic lists. So this is the use of database software. Then we also have graphic softwares like Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator. Okay. Then in you have specialized areas also. We have different types of applications, specialist applications like accounting package. Also you have in accounts. Then computer aided designs. It is the use of computers to assist the design process, right? CAD. And specialized computer aided design programs exist for many types of design. For example, it can be used for architectural, engineering, and electronics, roadways, etc. Then there is customer relationships management. That means this is a software that allows businesses to better understand their customers by collecting and analyzing data, and also they can use their products, preferences, buying habits, etc. So they are often linked to software applications that run call centers and loyalty cards. For example, this is another example of uh, the data. Yes. And then we have also have traditional computer based technologies. So see, the C part of ICT refers to the communication of data by electronic means. So usually over some distance here. So this is often received by the transmitting signals, right? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
Okay, so this is often they are received by networks of sending and receiving equipment, wires, and we have satellite links here. So here the technologies involved in communication, they sometimes tend to be complex. So you certainly don't need to understand them for your ICT course here, but there are aspects of digital communications that you need to be aware of. So these relate primarily to types of network and the ways of connecting to the internet. Okay, so these are the areas, broad areas, which we will be looking forward in our course. See, there are some internal networks, usually referred to as local area network, LAN. Here, this involves linking a number of hardware items, that is the input and output devices, plus the computer processing together within an office or let's say building here. So the aim of LAN is to be able to share hardware facilities such as printer or scanners or software applications and data. So this type of network is invaluable in the office environment where colleagues need to have access to common data or programs. Then you also have external networks. See, often you need to communicate with someone outside your internal network. So in this case, you will need to be a part of a wide area network that is known as WAN, WAN. So the internet is the ultimate WAN. It is a vast network of networks. So ICT in a broader context. See, this course will almost certainly cover the above examples of ICT, and also perhaps focusing on the use of key applications such as the spreadsheets, databases, presentation, graphics, web design softwares that we have just discussed. So we'll also consider the, some important topics that deal with the ICT, how the way ICT is used and it is managed. Okay, and the nature of information. See, the nature of information, that means the I in the ICT covers topics such as the meaning and the value of information, how information is controlled, then the limitations of ICT. Okay. Then it will also deal with the management of information. So this will cover how data is captured, verified, and stored for effective use. Then the manipulation, processing, and distribution of information. So keeping information secure, designing networks to share information, all these things. Then information system strategy also. Strategies, see, this will consider how ICTs can be used within a business or organization as part of achieving their goals and objectives. So as you can see, ICT is a broad and fast changing subject. So we hope that you'll understand all these concepts better in the next classes as we move forward. So this is the broad aim of the course, to understand the use of ICTs in different perspective. And also we'll be dealing with social media as well, the new media, social media, online media. So talking about online journalism. So what is online journalism? Online journalism, anyone?
With the advent of so many e-newspapers, citizen journalism, social media, we see a plethora of online journalism where professionals contribute to the content and customers themselves contribute to the content. The consumers contribute are also the producers.
Yes, exactly. So the simple answer is, of course, journalism as it is practiced online, right? So journalism sees any non-fiction or documentary narrative that reports or analyzes facts and events firmly rooted in time, right? This is the basic definition of journalism. So we have online journalism. Journalism has traditionally been published in, let's say, print, presented on film, and also broadcast on television and radio. So online includes many venues here. So most prominent is the World Wide Web. Okay, plus commercial online information services, like we have different platforms now. Simple internet, email also plays a big role here. Okay. So, what are the distinguishing characteristics of online journalism as compared to traditional journalism? See, online refers to real time, right? Online journalism can be published in real time. That means updating breaking news and events as they happen. So nothing new here. We have had this ability with telegraph, teletype radio, television also. But just as we gather around the television or radio, we can gather and attend real-time events online. We also have chat rooms and auditorium facilities online now. The feedback is instant here, right? And it has also, online has also shifted time. The online journalism also takes advantage of shifted time, where online publications can publish and archive articles for viewing, let's say now or later. So just as print, film, or broadcast publications can, right? We have World Wide Web articles that can be infinitely easier to access, of course. We have this facility here. Then online is also multimedia. See, online journalism can include multimedia elements like the text and graphics, like newspapers and books, plus sounds, music, motion, video, then animation, right? 3D, etc. We have this facility. So traditional journalism guides the reader through a linear narrative, but the online journalist lets readers become participants here. See, as they click their way through a hyperlink sets of pages, narrative momentum and also a strong editorial voice also pull a reader through a linear narrative here. See, with interactivity, the online journalists can, they can predetermine to a certain extent the reader participants progress, through the material, but also you have this facility of navigating pathways. You have so many options. Hyperlinks, they encourage the reader or the participant to continue to explore various narrative threads, which can be assembled by an, let's say, reporter or editor. You have variety of options, and here readers or the participants can respond instantly to material presented by the online journalist here. So this response can take several forms. The email to the reporter or editor, they resembles the traditional letter to the editor of print publications, but email letters can be published much sooner online than in print, right? You have instant response. It can be sent instantly, where in traditional you have to traditional form of, let's say, for newspaper you have to wait for, there is a waiting period of 24 hours, but it's not the case for online journalism. So online journalists can also take advantage of threaded discussions that let readers respond immediately to an article and also to the comments of other readers. Okay. So in a bulletin board style discussions that can be accessed at any time. Here readers can become participants in the ongoing, co-creation of an editorial environment also that involves from the online journalist original reporting and also the initial articles. So we have now blogs. Blogs also makes this easy, right? So how has the internet affected print journalism? Yeah, the internet is a time-saving research resource for journalists and editors, especially for reporters who are looking for background information. So if they care to dig and look, you can also see a lot of articles, columns, then you have syndicated features about the internet in print and broadcast publications. And then what influences do journalists have on their audiences in comparison to mass media journalists? So while audiences for online journalism remain smaller than the audiences for mass media journalism, online journalists have the same influence on their audiences that mass media journalists have. See, by choosing which stories to report, by choosing which facts, quotes, and other story elements to include, and which to exclude, by choosing to tell the story from a particular point of view, right? And the web's interactivity and hyperlinking gives the journalist more opportunities to examine multiple points of view in a particular piece than traditional analog media. And the lack of serious space limitations permits online journalists to develop a story more fully and to publish source documents and background material. So, see, with the advent of online journalism, do you think online journalism lead to the demise of some traditional publications? See, the answer is no here. See, perhaps some web publications will do a better job of creating profitable relationships with customers than, let's say, print publications. But especially those that do a good job of identifying audiences who are on the web. Here, print publications may lose customers to web publications if they don't find ways to deliver news and information and services to those web savvy customers in print as well as on the web. So that's the reason many traditional forms of media have gone online. We have e-papers now, right? All the newspapers have their internet editions. So in order to cope up with the changing environment, these traditional forms of media are constantly upgrading themselves, right? To keep in pace with new media. So understood about online journalism? Okay, is it clear? Let me know if you have any doubts. Then we'll discuss the other concepts in next week, okay?
Yes, ma'am. If we're done, we can move on.
Okay, let me know if you have any doubts. Okay, then see you next week. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Bye, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.